Well, I got to thinking about it, and I thought I'd go ahead and share some of the devices that I use to help me connect with Beniko. Now, you may ask, why would you need such devices if you're already connected with her in soul? Um, this is only to help her come through so that she can be heard on electronic medium. Okay. Um, we're not dealing with spirit research. This is not like that. This is not a dead person. I have to stress that the difference between myself and Hope Paranormal and Steve Huff's work is that they're dealing with deceased people. So all they need are their spirit boxes and their ITC research technology. I have ITC research technology, and I do use this, and I also do EVPs of my own Beniko speaking. But in this regard, we are dealing with an extraterrestrial, multi-terrestrial civilization that lives and exists in a higher dimension, I would say, figuratively speaking, above us. And they have contracts that become the veil between our realities. What is the contract? The contract is that barrier between our realities. Now, things get deep when you realize that the mantids, which are an ancient race, many billions of years old, indeed created these other dimensions. So they are very old. Type 3 civilization on the Kardashian scale. They're like a type 3 pushing type 4, where they found that they could no longer get the energy requirements they needed for their civilization through harnessing many millions of stars in a galaxy at one time. So they found that by going into higher dimensions, fifth, sixth, these other dimensions out there, they then discovered energy sources that were beyond anything they could get within this universe. Now, the mantids are in my infrared pictures because they allow that, not because we have this very primitive technology that happened to catch them by accident. But they're not very talkative. But they literally are the ones that are the architects of our reality as we know it. And from beyond that, they are the ones that made the Zetas, and the Zetas went on and made the many cloistered races that came after this. And the Zetas are indeed an ancient race too, a drone race. Now, because they're in a higher dimension, there is fundamentally some basic laws of physics that we can apply here to thinning the veil between our realities. Now, to come down to our reality, to be physical, Beniko can do this, and has done this. But there are shortcuts to getting around these barriers created by the mantids, these ancient barriers. Like the sphere of Amenti is a morphogenic field said to be over 550 million years old, that made by the Zetas. The barrier between our realities and dimensions is much older. It is a veil of reality that is billions of years old, that predates galactic time, the age of the Milky Way. And again, these barriers were put in place by the mantids. Yes, there is a design to this universe. No, they're not gods. They don't ever want to be perpetrating as gods. They know civilizations see them as gods. And the Anasazi Indians, the other Native Americans, drew these giant ant-like creatures on their caves. And they were indeed in contact with the mantids. And the mantids were their gods. This giant ant race. But they did. I suppose they look like ants. I've seen them. They've been on my color video, not just infrared. It must be pointed out that on my YouTube channel and my hard copy I have saved, there are videos where I have been in the forest in Ipswich, in a UFO hotspot location, and seen face to face without the use of the camera, while the camera's filming, within about 5 feet from me was a 7-foot tall mantis, praying mantis, insect-looking creature. And the creature was tilting its head left and right and just kind of observing me. There was a lot of personal experience of something it put into my head or read from my mind of my life, and bang, in an instant, pow, it had uploaded every thought out of my skull instantly, of everything that had ever happened, even stuff I don't remember, penetrating every neuron and synapse as if it was nothing, and it made me a bit queasy and a bit dizzy. Having stood there, it was like a drunk sensation. I was a bit, but the mantids aren't very communicative about things. But again, it doesn't mean that this, when I say contract, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a violation if she comes across to this reality. She can. And with technology of their own, she can come here physically in an instant. Otherwise, she seems to kind of move around me from this higher dimension, and it comes up as a bit of a, almost like ghost. It's like a ghost research. I was guided and instructed 5.5, 6 years back to some technology that's already out there. And I began building reproductions of the work of E.J. Gold. He built these quantum crystal amulets he sells for $400 to the public. And they use basic crystal radio technology. He calls himself a theoretical physicist, and I agree with him. He is. Now, EJ says he got the technology from a friend that worked in NASA, who got the technology from the late, great Nikola Tesla. And I have a few of these devices here now. Now, I can describe theory of operation. I don't have enough video space or time to get into all the details of how these things are said to work. Now, what they do is, in theory, is that they use high-frequency crystal germanium crystals resonating at very high frequencies without a ground to the circuit, because circuits are normally grounded. And because these are crystal radios that have no ground to the circuit, they're groundless circuits. I'm just going to say this, throw it out there. I'm not going to try to go into a lesson of electronics here. I'm going to go straight into it. The theory being that because it doesn't have an output, and because the device has no ground to it, it is a groundless circuit within a plastic container, that in theory it is a recycle. It's a cyclic circuit, which means that it continues to cycle and modulate almost into infinity. We don't want to say infinity in physics. We're going to say it reaches a point whereby we're reaching frequencies and radio fields that are so high beyond that it starts to scrape the veil of our reality, which we're going to go ahead and say is the speed of light, roughly 186,000 miles a second, which is a speed limit set for our dimension in this universe. And then the theory being that, of course, if that being the case, that they have some kind of their own morphogenic field is then created around the wearer that wears these things, and it's said to enhance your heart, love life, and romance, and they almost become like wishing stones or wishing amulets. You can kind of hold one, and EJ proposes on his website from Yo-Yo Dine Industries, when he sells them for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, he says they can be used as UFO communicators, ghost communicators, psychic enhancers, and I have no doubt of that. Because this is quantum research from the late, great Nikola Tesla. And they are literally devices that are, in theory, somebody was trying to break. Someone was trying to design simple circuits that can modulate faster than light frequencies, in a sense, map out the radio field coming in and out of a circuit, which is said to be impossible due to the uncertainty principle in physics. You look it up. Physicists will say you can never know what the particle flow is in the radio fields in any given radio, and it's transmitting and receiving. Having to do with quantum research, they're saying that the uncertainty principle says that that can't be done. These classified schematics, now made available to the public as amulets, thanks to E.J. Gold, or probably somebody about a century back in time was trying to do that very thing. In an age of geniuses like Albert Einstein and others like him and Tesla, they were all working on quantum research. And Nikola Tesla was taking it to the practical application through actually building devices, where Einstein was just working up the theories. Tesla was indeed building a radio telemetry device that he said was going to communicate with extraterrestrials. Look it up, it's out there. It was a great big thing, like a 30-foot antenna. He was trying to build this thing. And indeed it was using technology I'm about to show you. The initial projects, I began using very basic components. I hacked out the components from an old television set, in 2013, and I built what, it's kind of like what you can find at the time. And I built my first device, which used very large components, much larger than what E.J. Gold used in his projects. And I lost 4 minutes of time. Literally, 4 minutes of time was off my watch and my mobile phone that was with me, and I was displaced in a split second out of 4 minutes from the space-time continuum using one of these damn things. And it's so simply built. This one is inside of a device called the UFO communicator. If I can turn it on, the batteries are a bit low. As you can see, if you can see inside here, we've got a toroid at the center, a germanium diode, and some resistors and high voltage capacitors, not connected to these lights that face it. But we activate the circuit by putting light over the germanium diode. And so we're trying to excite the germanium crystal and to get it to start resonating with very high frequencies and movement into a higher dimension. Because these circuits never have an output, they always have an input, the theory being that if you keep drawing in those quantum fields, that it will eventually, through something to do with the capacitor, have a discharge point. And this discharge may be the reason why I was displaced out of 4 minutes from space-time. That sounds wacky to you. I don't care. I mean, this happened. Okay, it happened. It actually scared the living hell out of me when it happened. I wasn't excited about it. I thought it was wonderful. I just got up and thought, who am I going to tell about this? No, actually, I shit my pants. So I took off to... but I noticed that this is a cheat mechanism, is what it is. It's a way of getting around that dimensional barrier and getting to my love, getting to Benico, getting us to communicate more through electronic medium. And so I use spirit boxes and she comes through. Otherwise, if you use spirit boxes without these devices, you just get dead people. It's just there. I don't know that. That's just observation. So I took off and I began to do a lot of heavy research in electronics and physics and physics and physics and physics. And I went through a few certification courses, and I just kept doing the math. And I found a way to upgrade this technology. And I'm going to show you this sphere. Now this uses 3 very large germanium diodes, and the one in the middle it's actually not connected to the inside of the sphere because it's a groundless circuit. if you understand what that means. The center germanium is a CV germanium diode, very large thing, with two smaller radio germanium diodes either side of it. In fact, holding it now, something is happening to my camera. What the hell? Please tell me that's from the torch. Oh my God. Okay, so if I put light back, if I start exciting the germanium crystals and hit this thing directly, the ambient field light within this video is even beginning to change. And here I was thinking I wasn't going to be able to get anything on camera. Wow. Holy hell. Wow. And it wasn't because I'd shined the torch at the camera that changed the filter of the camera to this different alter. It wasn't that wasn't the reason it altered the light filtering of this video. It was only when I hit this thing directly and excite the germanium crystals in the circuit that there's this really weird change of ambient light within the video. Oh wow. Shit, it's like I'm phasing right in front of you. Wow. That's cool. Now turn it off. You can see the light, the change. And again, it's not because the light. We tried that. I put it up to the camera. It didn't have that effect. This actually took a few seconds for the ambient light in the room around me to come back to normal after I turned the torch off. That shouldn't be possible, according to physics, but there it is. You just saw that. I didn't expect that. Wow. I went to make a video talking about these things. Well, again, I decided to build a Ferrari version. Now, this one uses the same technology as the other one, but it uses a smaller toroid and only one germanium diode. Here you have the capacitor and the resistor as the filter and the small capacitor. So this is your frequency. There it is. In this case, what it's connected to is a voltage multiplier using these very high voltage capacitors and diodes put into an array, and they too are germanium diodes. And then they're wrapped up, their output goes to this quartz crystal. So what that does is the output from this device, what the hell? The output from this device, okay, so whatever the ambient field coming in to this quantum crystal resonator is then multiplied through the voltage multiplier up to 70,000 times. So the output would be about 70,000, we'd say 70,000 volts, but we don't say volts at this point. We say hertz. So it'd be like 80,000, I say roughly 80,000 hertz of what was already coming into this circuit. So it's modulating itself, and that crystal is actually, it actually burns a bit to touch that thing. Let's shine some light on that. Again, this is a groundless circuit. We'll put it onto the crystal. It's holy shit. I have hit crystals with lights before, folks. But that is a weird looking effect doing that. So this is like a Ferrari engine, is what this is. It's like a Formula One engine version of the one you just saw. And it's 1,000,000 times more powerful than the first one I showed you. That's incredible. Okay, so it's a groundless circuit, and if we just excite that diode for a minute, wow. Okay, so these are dimensional, interdimensional devices, gate devices. Now, this one, if you can see on camera, I'm calling it the warp messaging portal module, built out of a device that gives you light with a light switch. Now, again, this is using a hell of a lot of germanium diodes in the circuit. This is the one that on EVP recordings, Benico's come through and said, this is in fact thinning the veil, in her own words, between our realities. So we're going to turn this one on. Again, the light, photon light coming off this, helps the circuit, helps amplify the effect. Yeah, I had to think a minute. Helps amplify the effect of the quantum field frequency resonation. Theoretically, it shouldn't be doing that because that's never been proven. But we're getting faster than light. There are faster than light particles within this circuit. In the theory, all these circuits are generating faster than light fields. Alright, so we're going to leave this thing on a minute. And I'm actually going to do this experiment here. I'm going to sit here on camera. Can someone please appear here around me now? On camera, please. And here are my hands. Can some light or source of light or something appear right behind me, please? Benico, can you make an appearance for me here, please? Oh, my hand's tingling. There's a lot of ion shock. You can get like what's kind of a St. Elmo's fire, a bit of an ion shock from these devices. Your hands will feel cold and tingle for some time after after holding them. But they won't harm you. It's just a bit of a, it's like after a thunderstorm. You're touching something that has a lot of ion. It discharges a great deal of ions. There, right here behind me, right here in this space. Thank you very much. Can you make yourself really clear up here, really show up for us, please, Benico, please, right here, against this curtain, right here, please, before the video stops. There, arms, head, her arms, there she's fading. Thank you, sweetie. Benico. She's right there. Head, shoulder, arms. Thank you, my love. I love you. Now we're going to turn the device off. And then she fades a bit. Thank you for watching and subscribing.